Hi everybody, Craig with PhotoRV. Welcome to Photo Tip Friday. This is a follow-up to last week's video when Jackie and I were photographing the night sky in Arizona and New Mexico. We got some points of light, we got some star trails, and today I'm just going to show you how we process the star trail images. There are a lot of ways to do it, but I'm going to show you the easiest way and then the slightly more difficult but still easy way using Lightroom and Photoshop. First of all, I want to tell you about a free program. It's called Star Stacks, very popular in the astrophotography community. This is, I have it open here on the desktop. It's Star Stacks. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, star, all one word, Star STA, and then a capital X, Star Stacks. I will provide a link in the description below to go download this free program. It's the full program, not just a trial, and designed specifically for this purpose, for importing stacks of star images and creating these beautiful star trail images. So easy to use. Let's just get right into it. I have Star Stacks open. This is how it opens, this window. And I'm just going to select, I'm going to assume that you can bring photos from your camera or from a memory card into the computer and get them into a folder somewhere that you can navigate to. So I just have a folder here on the desktop, and I'm going to select all the images, drag them into Star Stacks, and watch it go. The great thing about this program, there's two great things about it actually. The first one is that you can see the process in real time. That's fun. If you did nothing else with the images, it's fun. It's fun to bring in a stack of images and watch it in real time make this this beautiful output image. Also, there's a really cool tool in the program, I'll show you here in a minute, that helps you close up gaps if you have any gaps in the trails. So those are the two great aspects of this program. Let's just do it. So here's a folder. There's about an hour's worth of images in here. The technique for photographing these was covered in our last video. Go to PhotoRV go to the PhotoRV channel on YouTube and you'll see how we did it. So I'm just going to select all of these images, select all, and I'm going to drag them into this drop zone, if you want to call it that, or the drop images here window, and instantly it puts them all into that window. I'll get rid of this so you can see it. Now it's such an easy program to use. There's a number of buttons here across the top, very intuitive. And the fourth one over is, I call it the stack button, but it's the process button. As soon as I click this, you're going to see it do its magic. It is going to combine all of these images into one output image, all in one swoop. Now, about 120 images here. This takes 20 or 25 seconds. Here we go. Totally cool. If this was a little longer, I'd speed up the video, but it's almost done. All right, that's it. So 20, not quite 26 seconds. It's 117 photos. And you can see at the bottom of this list of photos is the output image. It's just what you're looking at. That's the image. There are a number of processing tools right here. You don't have to go anywhere else with this image, but the really cool one is what is called gap filling. It looks like it opened by itself there. This image doesn't happen to have a lot of gaps. I'm going to zoom in, and you can see in these 117 images, there was no time between exposures. We did 30-second exposures with no, and by no time, it was a second, I think, maybe not quite a second in between. And so we just have, we're just stacking 117 of these with no time in between each of the exposures. There's a lot of compelling reasons for shooting star trail images that way. I won't go through all of them now, but it's a great way to do it. It's the smart way to do it, this way. So I've done nothing. These images are straight out of the camera, no processing. And if there were gaps, I could, using this gap filling tool, I could adjust the threshold. I think this is sort of like a layer mask. I can adjust the threshold only to include the star trails, right? If I go all the way to the left, it selects the whole image. All the way to the right, it would select nothing. So somewhere here in between, I want to just, I think it's selecting highlighted areas of the image, and I can get rid of the threshold mask, and just I can play with it back and forth. That's the full process. I'll zoom in some. So this is the full gap filling process. That's nothing. If you have an image that has some gaps, it really is fantastic for filling them in. There is a way to do that. Certainly in other programs in Photoshop you can do that, but it's more tedious. This is just a slider, super easy. So in that short amount of time, I could have imported the images, put them in a folder, selected them all, dragged them to Star Stacks, hit the process button, and I'm done. I've done nothing else. There's another button here in the corner that is to save it. I will call it stars and send it to the desktop. Done. That's done. By the way, it happens to be the image. I exported it, and it's what's on the desktop right now, just to show. But I've used no special processing other than this program. Really great. So that's way number one. That's the easy way to process these images. I'm going to get rid of this. And we're going to look at the second, more steps way. There's more control, but you have more steps. And in order to execute these steps, you have to have Lightroom and Photoshop both. We have the latest version, which that requires a weekly subscription. I'm sure it works with older versions. This is the Creative Suite 2020, both of these, Lightroom Classic and Photoshop. So I've skipped ahead some of these steps. I'll explain them, but I've done them because some of them are time consuming. So this is 20 images. The example I gave before was 117. You saw how quickly Star Stacks processed those and created an output image. This is just 20 of a different area, different location, and this is just for demonstration purposes, but I have labeled all of them red so they're easy to see in Lightroom. So I have imported them into Lightroom. We're looking at the grid view right now. Color these red so they're easy to see, and I'm going to go to the loop view by hitting the E on the keyboard, loop view. This is the first of these 20 images, and what I'm going to do differently here, in Star Stacks I did nothing. They were straight out of the camera. In using this method, I have the ability, and I'm going to take the time to do a really quick touch-up on these. This is not the depth that I would typically do it, but I just want to show you that this can be done pretty quickly. I'm not adjusting the exposure or the color temperature. I'm just going to move these sliders kind of where I like them. Just the texture, clarity, and dehaze sliders. These are all, they do the same thing in a different way. They are contrast and color saturation sliders, and they each do it in a different way. But I'm just going to sort of move those to the right. You can see the clarity slider, I happen to like that one in this case, has the most effect, but it also introduces the most noticeable noise in the image. So you kind of have to find the right signal to noise ratio. We'll put it there. I like what all three of these do. I don't like to add too much texture. That also adds some noise. So let's just leave them there. I'm not even going to say what those values are. I just kind of like how that looks. In this nighttime image, I do like to do a little luminance noise reduction there-ish, 20, 22, 25, 17. I'm just looking at it. Looks good. So that all looks good to me. I did that on the first image. I'm going to go back to the grid view by hitting G. And I'm going to shift click on this last image in the series. And down here, I'm going to, if you can see the mouse in the right bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to sync all of the settings of the first image to all of the subsequent images in the series, just like that. And I didn't change the crop. I didn't make lens corrections. I didn't do a vignette, but I'm just going to let all of that stay. All of these check marks, I'm going to let them fly. I'm going to let them stay and synchronize what we did on the first image with the rest of them. So you wouldn't have to do that step. This is just, it's one of the things you can do in this process, processing these in Lightroom, in Photoshop rather, via Lightroom. So I'm done now. I've made a little touch up on the first one. I've synced all of those settings with the rest of them. And if you're familiar with using Lightroom and Photoshop, but you haven't done this particular thing, this process, this will seem a little different. So right now, if I wanted to export images to Photoshop to work on them there, I could hit Command E, that would export them to Photoshop, or I could go to the photo drop down, edit in, and Photoshop is the program that I have told Lightroom to export to. So the default is Photoshop 2020, and you can see that this Command E, that is the keystroke. What doesn't have a keystroke is this last menu item, which is open as layers in Photoshop, and that will take all of these selected images and open each one in a separate layer in Photoshop. I'm not going to do that here because it takes some time to process. Only 20 images, but that takes some time. If you have 100, 200 images, it really takes some time to do it and go do something else. So I've done it already, but that's what I would do. Photo, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop, it sends them to Photoshop. I'm going to go to Photoshop because I've already done it. And you'll notice if I didn't do it in that way, if I just exported all of the images, if I selected them all and hit Command E and sent them out to Photoshop, they would be listed here. Every image, individual image, would have a tab here across the top. Each one would have its own tab. The first few times I did this, I was alarmed a little bit that I thought, wow, something's wrong. Maybe I didn't export them all. But I have. You can see here in the layers window that they are all present. These are all of the images. They're just in a stack under this image. And the reason we can't see them is because this top image is opaque. We can't see down through all of these layers. So here's what we're going to do. Produces nearly the result of the other program. We are going to shift click. We had the first layer selected. We're going to shift click the bottom layer. That selects all the layers. You should be familiar with that. The default blending mode is normal. We're going to change that to lighten. lighten. And this is the result. Now, there's really some post-processing options available doing it this way, much more than StarStax. If you are if you're adept at Lightroom and Photoshop, this is the way to do it. I can't start down the path of explaining all of the benefits to doing it this way, but there are a lot of them. And if you're doing star trail photography, if you like this kind of thing, this is really the way to do it, to take a series of relatively short exposures and stack them all. There's, I don't know, 8 or 9 compelling reasons to do it that way. I just wanted to show you in this video the 2 quick ways to process star trail type images. So this is the way to do it. Now, in Lightroom and Photoshop. So I have these 20 images. I will go to the Layer drop-down menu, flatten the image, and I could do a lot more post-processing now. I could have done each of the layers individually. Lots of things I can do. But this is ready to save and export. I hope that was helpful. Please share, like, and subscribe our channel, and we really appreciate that. Also, if you would, go to craigkerrphotography.com and see some of these completed image, all of our work. craigkerrphotography.com. Come back next week for more photo tips and adventures with Jackie and I as we travel and photograph the U.S. Thanks so much.